I've seen a lot of new titles of the HR functions, or specialist functions like people and culture.
That's my favorite area, all of these titles.
Yeah, head of belonging.
Head of
There's
belonging.
more
Yeah.
talk about mental health,
Yeah.
diversity, equity, and inclusion, and purpose. But really, is this true evolution, or is it just a scramble to stay relevant before the function gets automated out?
Hmm. Let's be honest. It's of course a little bit of scramble.
Anna is a global HR expert with over 17 years of experience leading people strategy across industry, technology, telecom, automotive. She's known for combining sharp business acumen with tech-savvy mindset and for working closely with executive teams across product engineering and UX to drive transformation in areas like organizational design, diversity and inclusion, leadership growth. But today, Anna is not just here to talk about what HR has done, but she's here to define and defend its future. Anna, welcome on the Leaders Who Care, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting. It's my pleasure to be on your podcast, Marian. Super happy you introduced me so well, so I even don't have anything to add. Let's just start and deep dive in the area of HR and tech. Very interesting.
But here's the twist. For the audience, I'm Marian Temelkov, co-founder and CEO of Dynamis Group, a global talent and leadership advisory. And I've created this podcast to showcase incredible leaders who care, to extract and filter insights from unexpected angles. So HR is my field, but for this episode, I step into the role of skeptical leader and skeptical CEO, and I'm going to be asking uncomfortable questions. Anna, are you ready for it?
All HR, it's very uncomfortable. Of course, I'm ready. Let's do it.
That's not much in my natural self, but we want to make sure that we ask all those questions that often are uncomfortable, difficult, but they bring a lot of insights and value for the audience. So for years, HR has been promising transformation, but with AI now handling the admin, automation, streamlining processes, the younger generation rejecting outdated systems, I have to ask, what is HR really becoming? Is HR evolving fast enough to earn its place in the future of work? Let's
Yeah.
find out.
Let's find out. And I think it's a very valid question to ask. And if you ask HR professional, you of course can get one answer. If you ask business, you would get another one. If you want the person who not ever worked in the corporations and business, they would even probably don't know that HR is not only talent acquisition or recruitment, right? So my belief, and I positive thinker, and what I see in the 5 years, of course, HR will not disappear as a function. But what will happen in the future? It wouldn't be a standalone function. I think HR really will evolve and really inject into the business. Really about the strategic capabilities, design thinking, about the building the trust, psychological safety, culture pieces, because at the end of the day, we know that admin would be covered by AI. This is clear. But the design thinking and all of the experiences, this is what HR will benefit in the future. So looking at the 5 years time, we don't know what will happen. I think nobody now in this turbulent time and really crazy time don't know what will happen. Like we plan now very short term. But what I see looking at the trends and looking at the, for example, HR 10 years ago, we're definitely moving into the direction of really using the tech as much as possible and data. So I think data insights, strategic capabilities, skills profiles rather than job profiles will be still very relevant. And the role of HR and the one who would stay, I would say, the one who knows, of course, the fundamental thing, how to admin, how to do the operation, but the one who have a strategic mindset as well. So this is not a short answer, but let's deep dive, and during our conversation, I will explain you more, maybe in some specific examples from my experience and background, and also from what I study and what I research right now.
You know what I've also noticed that CVs still look like templates and job descriptions still like they were written 10 years ago. In fact, it's a common thing that job descriptions basically are just an add-ons over the years, and everybody make their own add-ons, and they don't even read consistently. Never mind neurodiversity and inclusion. That's a completely different topic. So
Yeah.
uh, I like what you said. It's going to be moving, a lot more to that, focusing on the individual and the skills, the impact. I've been always interested into ROI, return on investment. How do we measure the cost of non-hiring or being late for hiring, or the cost of a wrong hire,
Mm?
or of not acting or not moving fast or freezing to hire. I'm really keen on what AI and how those matrix or KPIs can actually be consistently and tangibly measured. So, what
Mm.
is your take on this? Is there really a way to do that from what you've seen so far, or we're yet to see this real tangible measurement and return
Yeah.
on investment?
Yeah. I think it's valid question, and it's right to challenge this question, because I know that some things that probably you look from the HR perspective, that looks like soft, because how can you measure the culture, right? But the culture is, I would say, it's the most toughest things. And now working a lot with the data and data insights, I would tell you that you can actually measure everything if you have a good foundational data. So, for example, what could be the return of investment? What you can look, you can look from the different angles. You can look at your organizational design, for example, to the attrition, of course, we are measuring. You can look at the diversity perspective. You can look at the cost of hire. You can look at the tenure on the position. Different aspect, depends what you want to challenge. Engagement, performance. For example, you can definitely look at the team's performance and then understand how the engagement looks like. How many managers actually rated as a managers who not delivering, and how it's connected to the people that leave in organization, reasons why they're leaving. So many aspects, but I always like, and this is mostly my background from the HR, that I really like data, and I've been in compensation and benefits area when I started HR profession. That's why I always like to have a fact-based decision, of course, to understand how the data, what's the trend shows. And I would say that most of the things, if you build a proper people strategy with the key OKRs, objectives, key results, with the key follow-up, they can be measured at the end. It's the matter of I think, the maturity of HR, and also how business inviting HR for these conversations. Because, as I said, not every company perceive HR as a true business partner. Some companies, they perceive that HR is truly admin function, running the changes, doing the admin, being very compliant with the policies, sort of saying admin structure rather than strategic focus HR. That's why it's really depends what phase of the company and what's the role of the HR in this company. If the role connected to the business, then it's all the data, of course, you can follow up and show your business, this is the return of investment. This is what we achieved by doing this type of the initiatives or programs.
You mentioned the role of the HR in the business.
Mm.
So I'm curious whether you've seen any data or noticed um, where HR is seen as an admin focused, not so strategic to the business, versus companies where they put the HR the central strategic function. How do they perform? Because sometimes they're more the ones that see HR as admin, I see a lot of entrepreneurs that haven't understood maybe the value of HR. So
Hmm.
I'm curious to see when you say maturity, at what stage is there any kind of trigger, or is there any point where HR becomes more central, or um,
Yeah,
what is the tipping point where HR could move, or
yeah,
from
exactly.
administrative to
Yeah.
strategic?
Hmm. Yeah, if it's a small size company, a company that just a startup, and of course planning to be the scale up in the future, I don't think that HR it's a bigger role. HR is actually covering everything from the workplace environment to the recruitment to doing the compensation and benefits, performance management, so everything. If the company start growing, let's say size 500 people, then it makes sense to start thinking about what's our HR model. What kind of competences do we need to bring to the company? Not only recruiting people, because we know that part of this, how we recruit, yes, what kind of candidates, capabilities, but how we build these capabilities long-term, sustainable, how we retain them and motivate. And when it comes to the retention and motivation, especially with the new generation hiring, then you need to have a strategic part of the HR who would know how to work with this population of people. When they start already collaborating, creating their ecosystem, creating their type of the cultures. And you know that many, for example, tech companies, they're recruiting from other smaller tech companies, but you want to harmonize in a way one culture, one process, same performance model, same engagement. So this is, I think, when HR, strategic part of the HR needs to step into the company. But I absolutely agree for the small startups, entrepreneurs, I don't think that you can be like very universal at the beginning of the company when company just start growing.
Y- I actually, to some extent, I would challenge that, because I think even if you're a small company and starting out, I understand the logic. Of course, you have to do a lot of things because you don't have the resources.
Mm,
But wouldn't it be wise? Obviously, don't hire a full-time HR because you maybe 5, 10, 20 people company.
yeah.
But if somebody really, an advisor or HR partner board, that actually tells you, listen, this is how you attract your next or next wave of talent. This is what you need to know. This is what would you need to do in the organization to make it more appealing.
Mm,
This is a few small, like practical advice,
mm,
or like, because the problem I've seen with a lot of scale ups or startups, they of course trying to survive, get funding, but the moment they get the funding and gets positive revenue growth, they start hiring very quickly and they make a lot of mistakes. So because they just want to hire quickly or overhire. So this is why I think it's actually wise to have a strategic advice, or maybe don't use that word strategic first, but somebody who is really capable, fast, and understands your business and can tell you, listen, because I've seen it, you could be one hire away from exceptional growth.
mm.
You could be one hire away from exceptional innovation. So it's just so important.
Yeah.
And even at a small, even more important than small, when you're very small, because if you uh, start well or develop relationships before you need it with top leaders or top talent that you can't afford today, but maybe they can be advisors to you or you can afford later, it just goes a long way. So I'm just really questioning of what
Mm,
would be your advice perhaps to those companies that even when they're starting out and don't need a full-time HR,
mm.
how to engage with somebody.
Yeah,
Your
it's
advice.
absolutely correct. So when I explained the role, maybe for the entrepreneur, I didn't mean that it's not senior role. It's still
Yeah.
very senior role. It's a very profiled HR who knows how to do, but also knowing that from the experience how practical and not to fail. So it's definitely very senior role. The only difference of that role, it would be still very generic role. So you would cover all the aspects, which is, I know for the entrepreneurship, it's difficult sometimes to find this profile because you want kind of cover all the areas of HR in one single profile. But I wouldn't say that it's not impossible. We have a great talent pool, and I think HR is also very evolving. And if you have a strong understanding and love to be with the business and have the strategic mindset, learning agility, so I think that should work. But for me, it's definitely, if I'm looking the HR profession and how we can benefit to business, we need to first, and this is how I do when I start, for example, my new assignment, a new role. I honestly, I don't spend my maybe first months to understand HR processes, because overall, plus minuses, bigger corporation, smaller, it's all the same. You have the framework. The thing is a different probably in timelines, in design, how we frame it. What I start really meeting a lot of people, listening people, business, and then I jump to the product, because I think HR who doesn't know the product, what itself the company, and don't know the financials of the company, then you would never move to the right strategic conversation with your leaders. Maybe at the beginning they would give you a try during the onboarding time, but then after 3 months, real honeymoon will disappear. You would start to show real results. And real results is to challenge your leaders, coach them, but also shape the organization. Look at from the people dimension to the organization, and also, making tough decisions, because HR advising leaders to make these tough decisions. So that would be probably my tip of advice, that depending on what role you take, start with a lot of meetings with the one-to-ones, understand who your stakeholders. Don't jump directly to of course, if it's your first type job in HR, you need to understand. But if you're on a senior role, try to understand product and business and financials.
Talking about, I've seen a lot of new titles of the HR functions, or specialist functions like people and culture.
That's my favorite area, all of these titles.
Yeah, head of belonging.
Head of
There's
belonging.
more talk about mental health,
Yeah.
diversity, equity, and inclusion, and purpose. But really, is this true evolution, or is it just a scramble to stay relevant before the function gets automated out?
Let's be honest. It's of course a little bit of scramble. So it depends how company wants position people, HR in front of the employee value proposition, right? So all of these trendy programs, nice activities, titles, you can name yourself whatever you want. But I mean, the foundation, if the foundational piece not built, whatever title you can create, naming this belonging, inclusion, people and culture, people experience. I dislike human resources. This is my point. And that's really old schooling. I think that human resources need to move to the human results. This is for me more to really, really to make the impact. And I'm not wrong with the people and culture, because we deal in a lot with the culture building and it's strategic focus. But of course, I would say that build first the basics. Start talking about, okay, how our people strategy looks like, how we will measure results, how our organization design looks like, how many managers do we have, employees, how do we measure engagement, what's the performance process. When you build these basics, then you can add on any fancy initiative to attract, of course, to make this feeling that we are very trendy. But if data and foundation sucks, then you would have such a big
Oh,
trouble, because people, especially when you hire new generation, they come in and they don't match what was promised. So for me, it's also being fair in HR.
so Anna, can you summarize for the audience that is this the foundations of HR relevant for any type of company, or is it above certain size? So the one you just mentioned.
No, I mentioned this is like blueprint. I would say it's
Okay,
a blueprint
let's
for
talk
every
about the
company.
blueprint.
Yeah.
If you mention the top, whatever, 3, 4, 5 things that you need to have in the blueprint as the must-have foundations,
Hmm?
can you list them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you feel
Yes,
you need to have before the other ones?
definitely. Definitely. You need to have a data systems to track,
Okay.
to have your people data. And this people data needs to be quality checked regularly. It's not like that you implement it, or you have, it's fine to have even in Excel if it's a small company, but you need to have it quality. So data, then you build on data, of course, the compensation and benefits foundation on that.
Yeah.
Then you build performance management, how you measure performance. Then you add people strategy around these areas, how you track different activities, what's important for this quarter. And I really, my advice not to do annual people strategy. I know it's a common practice, annual. Now it's everything so happens so fast. So I don't know, every new month it's like a new decisions, a new company, a new strategy. I would advise to do at least quarterly strategy and then to do the revision. And the fifth one, I would say it's all around, of course, compliance, labor law. You need to have a proper policies around the people who going on the sick leaves. So all of this, operational, administrative HR part, together with the engagement, I would still foundationally, I would add something, how you track engagement of the people, together with the recruitment, of course. Recruitment, now we have a lot of tech solutions for the recruitment, for the skills-based recruitment, but also how you use different technology and LinkedIn recruitment. So I would say this is I think I calculate like 6 foundational things to have as HR foundation.
Thank you. No, this is very helpful, and I'm sure for the audience, they could quickly cross-check their systems with what you just shared. People may say that HR is about human connection, empathy, emotional intelligence, but is it just a romantic idea that we hold on to? Or because leaders, managers, and even AI tools are being trained to listen better, coach better, and personalize
Yeah.
experiences. So, what makes HR uniquely capable of delivering at scale, or is emotional intelligence just HR's last defense against irrelevance?
Mm. And it's true. It sounds like we talk a lot about the empathy, culture, but if you want to build sustainable company where people really stay longer, when you easy attract, and I know that company naming themselves people centric. So people centric can't be without humanness, psychological safety, and trust. So I think the most important to move here 3 aspects if you want to be really HR of the future and people centric company. So you need to move your processes to experiences, to look from the design thinking model, to look not only this is our process, but really to be ready to adjust this process every single time. The second one, you need to move from the control compliance to move to the culture build. So you need to really understand what's unique in this company, what's the core people of this company holding as a culture, what's important for them. It's a collaboration, or it's unique how they give feedback, or it's unique how they execute on task, or maybe they, I don't know, so creative, they creating own tools. So it all depends, but moving more from the compliance things to the culture. And of course, leadership, moving to leaders to trust. This is the core. If you would build this, then I think when you just explain that romantic, like empathy, but if you explain what do you really mean by empathy, then it not becomes so romantic. It becomes actually really tough task for HR. I think HR was really challenged nowadays. It's not about like standalone function. We ask to grow fast and also to challenge leaders fast and challenge organization. The only thing that, again, as I said, you need to have autonomy to do these things. You need to have a agreement with the business that I also think that this is important. I also think that psychological safety is important. Trust. How to persuade, then it's another question. Of course, you need to have a lot of data and researchers that will show you the results. Look at the companies that not having a good culture, where they are now, and the one who really, really progressing is that what they're doing so well. I'm super good with the copy pasting approaches. Just not name it even. You name whatever you want, but the approaches that leading companies now having, I think this is amazing. And recently it was Future Talent Forum in Nordic in Stockholm. And I've seen one of the posts of the insights about this forum, very interesting. And insights from one of the biggest tech company was that they are moving now a lot to the biometric data. They want to track leaders in stress to improve the well-being, because they know that if less stress and better well-being, then you really increase the engagement of your team. So they will do like that. They have HR tech solution for that. Coaching, another part, that most of the coaching now done with the AI. We have amazing AI solutions, also coaching for leaders, amazing. So you can try to make the soft things, but more in pragmatic way, offering some of the solutions. And of course, the role of HR, I think it's ability to scale through this complexity. Scaling, I mean, scaling new initiative, trying them. If foundation is built again, you try, you can fail, you can be successful, and then if it's successful, you scale up this to another organization.
Isn't it the role of HR to use the resources in the human resources in the best possible way to create human results? Isn't that
It's exactly like my mindset in this. So instead of the look at the people positions like resources, coming, leaving, of course, it's a normal to have attrition. But look at the results, how you make people feel, how you change your leaders, because it's still the same ecosystem. That's why for me, I'm a little bit different HR here. I know some of the managers come and saying, oh, Anna, this employee leaving us, being with us 3 years, amazing talent. And I'm so happy. I said, like, amazing. If employee really choose something much better, it's what the skill, just imagine. But then I challenge the question, have we done max possible? What is the reason the employee leaving? Can we fix this? But at the same time, I mean, it's still the same environment. The more we bring to the great talents and greater leaders, the more, because I look this at the like a whole world, that actually HR bringing not only impact to the one company, smallest startup. Just imagine if we will have more really great strategic and innovative HR future HR leaders, more of them, we can impact in leadership, we can impact in business result. what's the amazing impact we can make for the whole ecosystem and world and leadership overall. Leaders who cares. That's why I so like the name of your podcast, Marian, because this is, I think, this is the core. Our purpose to create the environment when we care about each other, no matter it's work, family, private, professional. This is still will stay core. Being kind, being honest, being trusted.
I mean, every leader should care, to be honest. There shouldn't be a podcast called Leaders Who Care. But we've noticed that, yes, they care, but not always for the things that really make a difference to everybody or everybody's life, and in the business. So we wanted to showcase that how you results matters, but how you achieve them is equally important. And our mission, and that's the very reason why Dynamis was established, to help more people thrive at work.
Yes.
And we found and figured out what gives us greatest fulfillment is actually that is achieved when you really bring a team together that deeply cares about making positive impact and care for each other. That's why we wanted to showcase for the next generation and also current leaders that care is not a weakness. If anything, is an amplifier, and it's a way of living. And hopefully, it's more people turn to that good side of us, because we all have the bad side, but we can overcome that by being better, by striving to lead by good, create more good, it's really and the opposite. That's my wife always says. And but a lot of our audience is Gen Z, so I'm really interested here of Gen Z is asking for more flexibility, purpose, transparency. Yet most workplaces are still very like they were designed for boomers generation. So is HR failing to keep up with what the future workforce actually wants, or is it the future work of fractional work? What's your take on this first?
I think it's a huge challenge. If you would ask me what would be the future biggest challenges that HR and overall companies will have, I would tell it's the new demands and new generation, the way how the new generation look at job itself. Starting from the really beginning, even before they start applying to any job, they're very advanced with the data. They're very advanced how to know and get any feedback of the company. So you start your employer value proposition really before even employee, a future employee and Gen Z will start applying to the job. And how you do this, you position your company, your offering, your offer really needs to be reshaped. And I think that reshaped in the way that we know key attributes of the new generation. They want flexibility. They value values a lot. They don't value so much perks, benefits, but they value a lot of the what is the meaning? How meaningful would be my work? How it really fits to my values? What this company doing for the society? They know a lot and they are asking these questions a lot. And then, of course, for them, very important to show their career progression. And career progression, and I don't believe in linear career. I think it's already dying. So people start looking career as a really side job and trying something new, changing your role totally, then back again. Then they take a leave, back from this leave, doing volunteering job, doing something else. And I think the new generation also come into that. That's why it's a big challenge. And I think if HR now will not start already be proactive in this area, we will definitely fail in this. And we shouldn't look at this like a trend. Oh, some research saying, oh, these people saying, it's not a trend. It should be blueprint of future HR. This is kind of call for action. And start with these basic principles. This is what I say, foundation to build. That's why
Yeah.
it's so easy when you just start your company, when you entrepreneur, you need to keep in mind this building foundation. I think it's much difficult. I'm working now in a big corporation, a previously smaller one, and I can see the difference. When it's smaller company, you have better flexibility to change something. With the
Yeah.
bigger corporation, when you set your HR function, processes, maybe 20 years ago, it should be really dramatic change to review everything. But what is good in this, you can do small shifts and shapes of different processes. And this is the thing. But I definitely believe that with more demand, and I like that they actually demanding this in a different way, you also shape the strategy. This is very interesting move.
Well, that's why I always say that if you start from the get-go with that wisdom, before you scale up your company, you have a great advantage to build a great company before it's too big, before it's too difficult to change. With the right kind of foundations, it's got to be an accelerator. So that's why if you even from the very early stage, where even very small, it's always
Mm,
worthwhile having somebody at least as an advisor or expert that can guide you through those uh,
absolutely.
those areas, and because they could be just so impactful to your business.
Yes.
It's make
Yeah.
or breaks in some cases. What I'm really interested is what the future holds, and in your view, what are the top 5 major shifts or major shifts? I don't know whether 5, 3, or more, whatever, um, that we're going to see completely change the scene of HR in the next few years.
Mm. Um, I think that it's already now happening, but in 5 years it would be totally different. And I believe because even 1 year before what I remember and what I see now, it's really the area of HR tech is really expanding. And I've been this year on a Europe HR Tech conference, and I was previously, and I can tell that during the only 1 year difference, you already see on the market so many solutions. So I think what will change a lot, all of these HR tech solutions, which now small, it should happen in a 5 years time that it will be aggregation to the bigger one, because now it's just you just lost how many solutions you can get, and then I think you still will use something bigger, something solid. So I think HR tech definitely will change in the 5 years time. Job to skills, for sure. So now it's already skills profile hiring, not looking so much on degrees and titles, more interested, as you said, what is your capabilities? Startup, founder, reaching you, and not interested so much what's your degree. You can be vice president of HR, but you don't know how to do practical things and give the strategic advice. So I think this what's happening already now with the different good HR solutions in the area of moving jobs to skills definitely would still be the trend. Overall work, I name it work tech. What do I mean here? It's more about workplace environment itself, how we collaborate. COVID time really changed that. We start using a lot of, even now we do podcasts, we do a lot of interactions online. So I think the tech that will help us to collaborate, no matter where you sit, you don't need to come to the office to reach someone to make some very incredible brainstorming. And we have a lot of these solutions like a whiteboard, right? Notion pages, you have a Slack and everything. So I think work tech will be also part of that transforming HR collaboration work to this work collaboration. Then, of course, talent acquisition overall. Talent acquisition, it's a recruitment. They are moving already into the talent intelligence, using data, looking at the skills profiles, understanding the demand of the manager, looking at, okay, why this person leaving the company, what's that? So connecting kind of data to making a good hire. And the fifth one, I think the performance models, performance management should definitely change into the culture, into engagement, and more really not following so much ratings, but more to have a coaching, more to have a real dialogues, real check-ins, regular conversation, continuous conversations with your people, and understand the part of well-being here. So I think well-being and performance management also will move into the area of coaching, culture, and engagement.
So if a graduate now is getting into HR, probably it's good to look at those 5 major shifts now.
Yeah, for
What's your
sure.
advice to graduates who are getting into HR now or want to get into HR? What would be probably 1 or 2 areas of advice that they should get that stuck in, focus on to be ahead of the game or
Yeah, definitely.
frog
And
jump,
yeah,
you know.
and I have actually two students that I'm supporting and giving them, because when you study theory in university, you actually don't know so much. What is this HR? You definitely see that it's profession when you're always busy. And I just read article yesterday. My friend sent me just, oh, look at this. An article name was, if you think that your job is tough, just think about the job of the HR. They know what does it mean tough job. So actually, it's really behind the scenes what we are doing. Feels like so, but it's very hard profession, emotionally, physically, depending on what phase of the company. But my advice to the students who studying and exploring world of HR, it's a very amazing profession, first of all. I would always echo and would be a role modeling this profession, because it gives so much different knowledge. You covering most of the organization. You probably don't know like subject matter expertise, but you mostly know the product, marketing, leadership. You understand the financials if you want to grow in this. But what I would say, let's say 3 top skills that the one who's stepping in profession should think about now. First, it's data acumen. So you need to work with the data inside. Love it or not, try use as much as possible AI data. We have solutions like Power BI. Try to work not only in Excel, but look at the dashboards, analytics, really helping, because we are working with huge number of data. So data is, I would say, it's like number one. Second one, overall growth mindset. You would never be good HR if you're really fixed, if you don't have this learning passion to know people. Oh, I will find this article, I will send it, I will read, what's happening. You need to be always interested, kind of having this ability to learn every single moment. So this, I would say, this growth mindset. And the final one, it's change, like a resilience and change agility. It's a very tough profession. It's a lot of changes happening. It's a lot of emotions, people, lives, careers, and it's a lot of change. You need to be super pragmatic and understand how to drive change as well. So 3 things. First one was data. Second, mindset, growth mindset, and change agility.
Wonderful. The final question from us, if you had unlimited resources and unlimited power, what is one thing you want to positively change or impact in the world for more caring, more hopeful future. Yeah, basically, you have more
Giving,
resources than the President of the United States.
I think this is what I always sharing. Sharing is caring. Giving more information to someone, just giving a good, advice. So you can not limit that only you subject matter expert. I think now with the knowledge, this is very strange approach. So you need to love sharing.
Wonderful. Anna, thank you so much. Really appreciate you for what you're doing and all the great insights, advice, and framework. If anybody wants to reach out to you from the audience, whether they're a graduate, whether they're senior executive, what is the best way to reach out to you?
What a great promotion for me. It's LinkedIn, of course. I'm active on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to find me there and just follow and connect. And if you're in Stockholm and in Europe, I quite often in Amsterdam as well, because part of my family and my sister living there and running actually now she's entrepreneur. And I'm volunteering there. We are doing the application for the kids to learn mathematics. So if you're in Stockholm or Amsterdam, just reach me as well and we can have a coffee or chat. Super happy to connect.
Excellent. Thank you. Anna, blessings to you, your family, your team. Thank you for being a Leaders Who Care.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast, Mariam. Thank you. Bye-bye.